I became the wicked stepmother. The original character married an older man 20 years her senior for money, only to become a widow right after receiving the marriage certificate. Disillusioned, she took out her frustration on her husband's limited remaining assets and mistreated his children, who grew to despise her. One day, the wealthiest man in town called to say he would soon come to take the children left behind by her late husband. To avoid his wrath due to the original character's actions, I decided to redeem myself. The eldest son, Liam, rarely came home after getting into college. The second daughter, Emily, only returned once a week after starting high school. So, I set my sights on the youngest son, Ethan, who was still in elementary school. I went to the mall and bought a bunch of toys that kids his age would like, filling the sofa with them. I spent the afternoon playing with the toys myself, imagining how excited Ethan would be and how he might call me Mom when he saw them. After some time, the door creaked open and a small, thin child walked in. I quickly sat up straight, flashing a smile that showed 8 teeth.
Ethan, Mommy bought you some toys. Do you want to come and see?
Ethan looked at me with his big, round eyes for a moment, tightened his grip on his backpack, and hurried into his room.
My brother and sister said not to be nice to that bad woman. I'll sneak a look at what she bought later.
Was that his inner voice? So, just like before, he wouldn't join me at the table for meals and would wait until I was done to eat the leftovers? What kind of habit is that? I glanced at the toys I had bought and smirked. I quickly went into my room, leaving the door slightly ajar to watch for Ethan. The little guy was clever. He came out and checked the cameras, saying in a childish voice,
"No one's watching me."
He looked at the toys piled on the sofa and sighed.
Why did she buy such childish toys?
Then he ran back to his room, clearly unimpressed. What? These toys had great reviews. How could they be childish? I opened the promotional video for the toys and read a few comments. These are too childish for my son, but perfect for a 30-year-old like me.
I haven't given them away yet. I've been playing with them at home for a month and still love them. I've already recommended them to my other college friends.
No wonder I had so much fun playing with them earlier. Realizing Ethan didn't like the toys, I decided to keep them for myself. Just as I reached for the doorknob, I heard Ethan's inner voice again.
This woman seems to have really lost it. Should I call my brother and sister to come back?
I opened the door, but the small figure had already run off, leaving me alone with Henry, the old man from the subway, looking at his phone. How did he conclude that I had lost it? To get this kid to bring his brother and sister back, I waited until he finished his call before I approached him. Ethan, I heard from the neighbor that tomorrow is your parent-teacher meeting. How about I take you to school tomorrow?
She hasn't hit me in a long time. Now she suddenly wants to take me to kindergarten. She must be looking for an excuse to scold me. The teacher asked me to read an essay about my mom. I don't remember my real mom, so I made up stuff about her. If my classmates find out what she's really like, it'll be so embarrassing.
Ethan struggled internally for a moment, pouting.
I'll tell the teacher and my classmates that you're an old witch, ugly and mean. If you don't mind the embarrassment, then go ahead.
He held his head, bracing himself for a scolding. I smiled helplessly. This kid would rather get scolded than let his classmates know about his real family situation. Quite the prideful one, isn't he? But where there's a will, there's a way. I patted his head and said with a smile, Then I definitely have to go, so I can clear up that I'm a caring and gentle mom.
Do whatever you want.
Seeing the smile on my face, he got scared, his little face scrunched up, and he ran back to his room. Through the slightly ajar door, I saw him hiding under the covers, trembling. Kids can be pretty cute. I decided not to scare him any further and went back to my room. At night, I sneaked into his room and read his essay, almost laughing out loud. My mom has long, black hair, speaks softly, and always has a friendly smile for everyone. I really like her. The original mom was a gambling addict with a messy hairdo and a floral nightgown, always yelling like she was calling out cards. If I showed up looking like that, it would indeed be quite embarrassing.
Don't hit me! Don't hit me! I don't have a dad or a mom, but I'm doing fine. Please don't laugh at me.
A tender and fragile voice reached my ears, and I looked over instinctively, feeling a pang in my heart. His small body was curled up under the covers, trembling. I walked over and gently moved the blanket off his head. His little face was covered in sweat, his hair damp. It seemed the original mom had done more harm than I had imagined. Carefully wiping his sweat and fanning him, he gradually calmed down. The next day, I attended the parent-teacher meeting looking like the mom described in Ethan's essay, causing quite a stir among the kids.
Ethan's mom is actually so nice. Didn't he say she was like a witch?
Should we apologize to Ethan?
Ethan's drooping head suddenly lifted, and he glanced at me sheepishly. Thinking I wasn't looking, he nodded proudly. To maintain the image from his essay, I smiled all day, until my face felt stiff. On the way home, Ethan still ignored me like before, but his inner thoughts had wavered.
Why is she suddenly so nice to me? Actually, thinking about it, she's quite pitiful.
Not bad, not bad. He actually feels sorry for me. I smiled smugly, trying to hear more of his praise.
She's lost it at such a young age, smiling all day like she can't make any other expression. I need to get my brother and sister back quickly to see this. She's already so pitiful. I should tell my brother and sister not to scold her anymore when they come back.
Watching Ethan sigh and shake his head, I felt like crying. So, have I successfully redeemed myself in front of this kid or not? After making dinner and waiting for Ethan to fall asleep, Grace finally lay down on the sofa to rest. Creak, the front door was suddenly and slowly opened from the outside, and a sneaky figure tiptoed in.
Thinking it was an intruder, I instinctively ran to Ethan's room.
What? What do you want to do to my brother?
The speaker was a girl in a school uniform. Her voice had lost its childishness, but she didn't look very old, maybe 16 or 17. This must be the original owner's second daughter, Emily.
Just as I was about to smile to appease her, she suddenly rushed over, pushing me aside, and then pointed a heavily worn phone at me.
Didn't my brother and I send you money every month? Why are you still secretly hitting my brother? If you want to hit or scold someone, come at me.
Emily, a high school student with such a busy academic schedule, still had to earn money for the original owner. Looking at the frail person in front of me, my heart truly softened, and I instinctively walked over to comfort her.
Before I could reach her, she suddenly closed her eyes and screamed. See, this is my mom, Grace, the notorious girl from the alley back in the day. She's so ruthless she even hits her own daughter. You'd better not mess with us.
Then several female voices came from the other end of the phone.
Grace may be old, but that doesn't mean we haven't seen her photos. What you're showing us doesn't look like her at all.
This must be a coincidence of the same name.
Emily, if you're lying to us, you're done for. Just wait and see tomorrow.
Is someone bullying you?
None of your business.
Emily quickly hid her phone when she saw me reaching for it, then stared at me for a while, muttering softly.
How did she become like this? Could she really have lost it?
After saying that, she ran into Ethan's room.
So those people meant they were bullying Emily? Thinking about the bruises I saw on her wrist just now, it was probably true. She has a stress reaction now. Forcing my way in would only make her more resentful. It would be better to quietly follow her tomorrow and see.
The next morning, Grace woke up to find a few crumpled bills on the table, along with a note.
Don't bully my brother. This should be enough for you to play cards once.
Clutching the money, Grace felt a pang of discomfort. After cursing the original owner several times, she got herself ready and went to stake out near Emily's school. She thought Emily was staying at school, but after classes, Emily walked out with the day students and was forcibly taken away by a few girls dressed in colorful clothes. Grace quickly followed them. Several people holding sticks surrounded Emily tightly.
Every time you use Grace to deceive us, but this time you're exposed. We won't let you off. Where's the money?
I don't have any money left. Just let me go after you hit me. I still have to work part-time.
She's just a kid, after all. How could she not be scared? She gave all the money to me. Clutching the crumpled money even tighter, I rushed over and shouted, "Why should Grace's money go to you?"
So this is the person pretending to be the boss of the alley, Grace? Even if you're pretending, at least dress the part.
What kind of mother makes her high school daughter work part-time? There's no camera here, we can beat her up too.
The boss of the alley? So the original owner was also a bully? No wonder she could do those things to a few kids. But Emily is quite smart, knowing to borrow the power of her wicked stepmother. Before I could react, several girls rushed at me. I didn't have time to pull out my phone to call the police and was momentarily stunned.
Why don't you run, you fool?
My heart warmed, this girl is quite kind. However, there were too many of them. Grace, although an adult, wasn't very tall and didn't seem to have much of an advantage at first glance. No wonder she was getting beaten up too.
Stop pretending to be Grace. Oh my, it really is Grace.
The girl who had been pulling my hair now had both arms twisted by me, unable to move without feeling immense pain. She could only look at me ingratiatingly.
Sis.
The others didn't dare to come forward either and obediently called out.
Sister Grace.
I nodded proudly and winked at Emily. Although I didn't have the original owner's imposing presence, I was a former special agent. Controlling a few kids was no big deal. Emily stood still, looking at me with admiration.
This is so cool. If Grace weren't my stepmother but my best friend, that would be great. My brother was right, Grace has changed, but for the better. That was really awesome just now. If I were like that, no one would dare to bully me.
Hearing her heartfelt praise, I was overjoyed. Suddenly, I felt that even without being the richest person, helping these kids at home was quite fulfilling. Don't let me catch you bullying Emily again, and let your friends in other alleys know too. I pulled Emily over and warned the girls in front of me.
From now on, Emily is our sister. We will protect her. How could we bully her?
They handed over a wad of crumpled money to Emily. Holding the money, Emily's eyes filled with tears, and her hands trembled uncontrollably, showing how hard-earned this money was. After dealing with those who bullied Emily, I helped her quit her part-time job and brought her home. Like Ethan, although she didn't interact much with me on the way, she didn't reject my arrangements. In the evening, both kids voluntarily came out to have dinner with me, and my redemption mission was 80% complete.
Brother, you have to come back and see. She's really changed for the better and has been helping us.
Brother, we're not lying. She's like a different person now, not the wicked witch she used to be.
The siblings kept praising me to Liam, making me feel overjoyed, thinking my redemption mission was almost complete. Who knew they had the speaker on, and I happened to hear Liam's response.
Don't be fooled by her. It's because our grandfather is wealthy and coming back to find us, so Grace is just putting on a show for you.
No wonder adults are hard to fool, they're sharp and perceptive.
Suddenly, I felt that the 80% completion was an overestimation.
But I don't think she's pretending. She even secretly wipes my sweat at night and comforts me.
Her cooking is really delicious. I don't think she's faking it. It's like she's been possessed by a good person. Brother, you really should see for yourself.
The two little ones had been charmed by me and kept defending me, which wasn't in vain since I genuinely wanted to be good to them.
I won't come back. Grandpa will be here soon, and she won't be able to fool you for long.
You're really a tough nut to crack, aren't you?
Since it couldn't be explained over the phone, I decided to go find him in person.
On the third day, I bought the earliest flight and flew over, heading straight to Liam's school. After finding out he wasn't in his dorm, I spent the whole day waiting at the library. This kid was really something, staying in the library all day without eating or drinking. It wasn't until closing time that I saw him.
In person, he was taller and leaner than in the photos, with well-defined features, surrounded by a few enthusiastic girls, yet maintaining a cold demeanor of "don't come near me."
Liam, remember me? Let's find a place to talk. You have a deep misunderstanding of me.
While he remained silent, I tried to read his thoughts.
She actually found me here? To have fooled my younger siblings like that, she can't be underestimated. I can't give her a chance to brainwash me. I'll just pretend she doesn't exist.
When I see Grandpa, I'll make sure to tell him about her misdeeds and make her pay.
He had no other thoughts, just a mind full of revenge against me. Neither emotional nor material temptations would work on him.
Hey, are you Liam's girlfriend? One of the girls approached me, comparing me to a photo on her phone.
I waved my hand and explained, I'm his stepmother.
Ha! The girl, along with the others, turned to Liam in surprise, saying in unison, "You guys are playing this big?"
I didn't expect Liam, who usually seems so cold and serious, to be so open and private.
Yeah, such a big contrast. I thought he wouldn't even joke around. Just study all the time.
What? This joke has gone too far, hasn't it?
Seeing their misunderstanding, I glanced at Liam, whose face had turned even darker.
This is bad. It was already hard to change his opinion, and now with this misunderstanding, it's even less likely.
I quickly tried to remedy the situation. I really am his.
She really is my girlfriend.
Liam walked over and pulled me behind him. Hearing his response, I was almost scared to death. Has this kid gone mad? Remembering that I was still nominally a stepmother, I rolled up my sleeves, ready to educate him properly.
Even though our family isn't wealthy, we shouldn't lie. We must be honest and...
You really have lost it.
Seeing that I was about to retort, Liam leaned in and whispered.
Didn't you have something to tell me? Don't you want to say it now?
Yes.
Liam grabbed my hand, forced a smile, and pretended to be my boyfriend, speaking softly.
Let's continue this act later. For now, let's keep it together.
With that, He pulled me along and started running. Following behind him, I got goosebumps all over. Didn't he say he'd never give me a chance to get close to him? What's this all about? Liam waited for me for a moment, and when I didn't speak, he waved his hand in front of my face.
Do you need to see a neurologist?
Who's the one with the problem here? Have you started lying since you went to college? I'm just saying, it's okay to take your time finding a girlfriend. Don't lie for the sake of vanity. If you're found out and people talk about you, it could affect your mental and emotional development. How will you become a promising young man and contribute to society?
And have you become so engrossed in studying that you forget to eat? No wonder you're so skinny. Studying alone won't help you find a girlfriend. Who likes a stick figure? Eat more.
I handed him the food I had prepared earlier. His weakness turned out to be his anxiety about not having a girlfriend, such a mundane yet endearing reason.
Which one do you like? I'll help you pursue her. You just focus on eating and drinking more.
Grace, is this how you changed my siblings' opinions of you? Pretending to be crazy to exploit their sympathy? No need to wait for Grandpa to come find me. I'll call him right now and tell him.
If you don't want me to go, you'd better leave the campus now and stop looking for me.
He glanced back at me, threateningly. I was speechless. This kid is really tough to deal with. Difficult.
I get it, kid.
Just as he took a step forward, an elderly man with a dignified presence approached, tears in his eyes.
Grandpa?
Yes, I'm your grandpa.
Henry waved at me, sighing.
Child, I've seen all you've done for the kids over the years. Worrying about their meals and even their future marriages. It's been hard on you.
Is this a stroke of luck amidst misfortune?
Grandpa!
Henry held his hand, his voice trembling as he nodded.
I understand. I know you can't do without her.
Seeing his grandpa so emotional, Liam probably didn't want to upset him further and held back from saying more.
Grandpa, I'm not tired. As long as the kids are well, that's all that matters.
I quickly responded, moving closer. Glancing at Liam, I grew anxious again. We've stabilized the situation for now, but what about the future? I need to figure out what he's thinking, why he suddenly claimed I was his girlfriend. Maybe there's something I can use. When I returned to the hotel arranged by Henry, I took advantage of the moment when he was taking some calming medication to pull Liam aside to a secluded spot and tried to read his mind.
Don't waste your effort. As soon as Grandpa calms down, I'm going to tell him how you used to treat us.
I quickly stepped forward and questioned. Liam, you should ask yourself first if you've done anything shameful behind my back, afraid that I might expose it. Liam's expression changed, gradually revealing his vulnerability.
Does she know that I lied about the photo my sister sent, claiming it was my girlfriend, just to stop people from bothering me all the time? If I anger her, will she spread it around school, making my life even more troublesome?
After hearing his thoughts, I smiled knowingly and stepped closer to the guilty person retreating backward. Don't think I don't care about you guys just because I seem indifferent. I know everything you do at school. Otherwise, you would have starved long ago. I lowered my head and touched my nose. Although the original owner never did this, since I came into this world, I've been quietly asking his roommates about his situation and asking them to take care of him. I've told you before, you can't rush into relationships. Using someone as a cover is wrong, I continued to lecture. Liam's face was uncertain, staring at me intently, but I knew someone who dislikes being disturbed would eventually compromise.
Henry, look at them.
With a scream, Liam and I instinctively looked over. It was a stranger woman supporting Henry.
I asked around at school for you. They are indeed in a relationship. Although they are close in age, the hierarchy still matters. Liam is just a kid, but Grace is an elder. I even suspect that uncle's death back then.
The speaker was Henry's adopted daughter, Sophia, who also studied at this school. She was the one who suggested coming to the school to see Liam first, bypassing me. It can be said that she was targeting me in every way.
Liam, Grandpa has already been checked. You can say whatever you want now.
Sophia walked over to Liam, linking arms with him, and looked at me provocatively.
I have nothing to say. Grandpa is wise enough to understand everything.
Seeing that Liam had no intention of exposing the original owner's past behavior, I glanced at Sophia and decided to outdo her. But this is my duty. After all, raising kids isn't just talk.
People with dirty minds see everything as dirty. You need to clear your mind. Don't have so many schemes at such a young age.
Sophia widened her eyes in shock, probably not expecting that the least likely person to turn against her, Liam, would actually speak up for me. Then I heard her unwilling thoughts.
These big schemers are always so cunning. I should have started with the little ones. Kids are innocent and won't lie. Don't get cocky. As long as I'm here, the family won't tolerate another outsider.
Oh, really? So you know you're an outsider too? Mind your own business. No wonder I had so much fun playing with them earlier.
This woman seems to have really lost it. Should I call my brother and sister to come back?
Realizing Ethan didn't like the toys, I decided to keep them for myself. Just as I reached for the doorknob, I heard Ethan's inner voice again. I opened the door, but the small figure had already run off, leaving me alone with Henry, the old man from the subway, looking at his phone. How did he conclude that I had lost it? Realizing Ethan didn't like the toys, I decided to keep them for myself. Just as I reached for the doorknob, I heard Ethan's inner voice again.
This woman seems to have really lost it. Should I call my brother and sister to come back?
I opened the door, but the small figure had already run off, leaving me alone with Henry, the old man from the subway, looking at his phone. How did he conclude that I had lost it? The next day, Grace was jolted awake by a loud pounding on her door. She hurried over to open it, and Sophia was the first to burst in, raising her hand as if to slap her. Grace deftly dodged, looking at Sophia in confusion.
Look at what you've done to our siblings.
Grace followed her gaze and couldn't help but widen her eyes. Ethan and Emily's faces were swollen, as if they had an allergic reaction. Henry also barged in, looking at Grace with utter disappointment.
How could you be so cruel to the children? So all that talk about being good to them was just an act, wasn't it?
What exactly happened?
Still pretending? I asked you what the kids liked to eat, and you said they liked seafood porridge. After I made it and brought it to them, I found out they were allergic to it. If they had eaten it, it could have been life-threatening.
She glanced back at the two children, her voice breaking.
You almost harmed these adorable kids. How can you live with yourself? Or maybe, from the beginning, you've hated these kids, constantly mistreating them, and even wanted to use my hands to get rid of them to cover up your secret. That way, you could continue to enjoy the benefits given to you as Uncle Liam's widow.
This sudden turn of events left Grace completely bewildered.
I never asked you to make seafood porridge for the kids. If they ended up like this, it should be the fault of the person who served the porridge.
Sophia, lacking evidence, still looked unashamed. She sneered.
Still the same, never admitting to your wrongdoings. Ethan, Emily, tell us how Grace treated you before. Let's expose this liar together.
She signaled to the two children behind her.
Grace treated us very well. She always saved the best food and drinks for us.
When I was bullied by some thugs near the school, Grace was the one who rushed over to save me.
Grace would sneak into our rooms while we were asleep to apply medicine to us.
These were all things that happened after Grace came here. They didn't mention anything about the past. Sophia was dumbfounded, angrily shaking the children's shoulders and shouting.
What nonsense are you talking about? You didn't say that before.
Seeing her agitation, Henry had someone pull her away and then walked over to the children alone, asking softly.
What's going on?
Yesterday, Sister Sophia came to us and asked us to eat some seafood porridge and pretend to have an allergic reaction to frame Grace. If Grace asked for evidence, we were supposed to say she treated us badly as a stepmother.
But Grace has always been good to us. We couldn't help her do that. But we didn't have time to record her words, and we were afraid you wouldn't believe us if we told you, so we had to wait until Sister Sophia couldn't keep her story straight.
Sister Sophia even urged us to eat more seafood porridge to make the reaction stronger, without caring about our well-being at all.
You suffered so much right under my nose?
Henry, shocked and heartbroken, gently patted the children's heads. He turned to Sophia, his face cold, and questioned.
How could you be so cruel to the children and then shamelessly blame someone else?
Grandpa, I was wrong. I'll never do it again. Please give me another chance. I only increased the amount of seafood porridge. I never meant to harm them too much.
She turned her gaze to Grace.
Although I don't know why they suddenly defend Grace, I know the neighbors all know about Grace mistreating them.
At some point, she rushed out of the crowd, grabbing Henry's sleeve, and pleaded again.
Grandpa, please ask the neighbors yourself.
Henry wavered and took them to visit all the neighbors. On the way, Sophia looked as confident and disdainful as she did the day before, even provocatively saying,
You might be able to fool those three, but can you silence all the neighbors? There will always be someone willing to tell the truth.
Oh.
I responded calmly, leaving her fuming and pacing behind me. I had already settled things with the neighbors before I went to see Liam, so it wasn't a big deal. We visited all the neighbors, and all we heard were compliments about me. Sophia's last hope shattered, and she stood there in a daze.
I've supported you through college, and that's more than enough. From today on, you are no longer part of the family. Never contact us again.
Henry said, waving his hand. Sophia couldn't bear to leave the family and begged in every possible way. Henry was a resolute man and had her forcibly sent back to school without a hint of softening. After Sophia left, Henry also planned to take the younger generation back. I didn't pack my things, intending to stay behind as planned. The door was quietly pushed open, and 3 figures walked in. Remembering how wary they had been of me before, I turned away and ignored them. It wasn't that my mind-reading ability had failed, they just didn't believe I wouldn't covet the family's benefits and deliberately hid their thoughts from me, trying to expose my true intentions.
Grace, are you too lazy to pack? Let me help you.
Come back with us, and I'll play those childish toys with you, okay?
Each of them guarded one of my ears and spoke in unison.
We know you're not the real Grace, but we really like the current you. Can you stay with us?
How did they figure it out?
I've always wanted a strong best friend since I was little. I really want Grace to come back and be my confidant. The first time I felt motherly love was when Grace secretly checked on me at night. I wish she could continue being my mom.
So one wants me as a best friend, and the other wants me as a mom? What about Liam? Why is he here?
I looked up and met his gaze, only to see him quickly look away, his fair cheeks slightly flushed. He was deliberately hiding his thoughts, and I had no idea what he was embarrassed about. Seeing their eager eyes, I refused and stood up to leave. These three have too many tricks up their sleeves. I need to run. Suddenly, a hand pressed against the wall, blocking my way. Liam leaned closer to me, moved to my ear, and whispered,
If you don't come with us, we'll pin all of Grace's actions on you and take it up with Grandpa.
You!
I was speechless. All those tricks were Liam's doing. Then, two more hands wrapped around my waist. I was carried back to the family by the three of them. 3 months later. I lay on the sofa, Emily doing my nails on one side, and Ethan peeling an orange for me. Liam was setting up my favorite show. This life didn't seem so bad after all.
With that thought, I relaxed even more.
The end.